Welcome to Black Cat Crypto Club, everybody. My name is Drake. I've got a great video for you guys today. There's been a big narrative ever since Bitcoin came onto the scene that Bitcoin is kind of an analogy for digital gold. And it's a fair analogy. I think Bitcoin has quite a bit more to offer personally, but it has always been an analogy where gold is kind of a store of value historically, and Bitcoin is kind of the digital version of that. Now, we just a few days ago, we had a couple powerhouses from both the Bitcoin and crypto side and the gold side come together and debate each other. One being Peter Schiff, he's the big gold bug, and we have Raoul on the crypto and Bitcoin side. And for the last year or so, it's been very apparent through the things that Peter Schiff has come out and said that he is absolutely pissed about Bitcoin, and especially these Bitcoin ETFs, because we've seen once these Bitcoin ETFs came onto the scene, there have been major outflows from gold ETFs and gold stocks at the precise moment that Bitcoin ETFs are just swallowing stuff. So it's very apparent that at least some of that money that is flowing out of gold is flowing into Bitcoin. So we're going to get into all of that. I've got some really good clips from this debate that happened a few days ago between Raoul and Peter. And we're going to get into all of that. But before we do that, guys, if you haven't, head over to ezsrescueranch and throw those guys a few dollars if you can. These guys are a small rescue, and any small amount really goes a long way to help out their animals. So the PayPal for them is on the bottom of this flyer, and I will also leave that and all of their website and all of their other information in the description of the video. So let's get into these clips on this debate. They really start off in the same place, kind of looking at things in the perspective of inflation and national debt and currency debasement and all of that. So let's listen into that.
I think we will both agree that things are pretty screwed up. We'll all agree, right? What is really screwed up is the world is massively in debt. The workforce is shrinking. Population growth is slowing down. It's slowing down GDP growth. So there's not enough GDP growth to pay or service the amount of debts out there. And what we found since 2008, that the answer to this debt issue has been printing of more money, debasement of currency. People think of it in terms of, at first they think it's going to be inflation, as in the price of CPI goes up, but it's actually not. It's actually something much worse, is wages don't rise, but assets go up, because optically you're debasing the currency. Your future self is getting poorer because assets are all about storing wealth for future deferred consumption. But what's happening is you can't afford as much of that now. And so your future self is in fact poorer. So a classic example is a 35-year-old now in the United States, getting married, having kids. A house is very expensive now. Compared to when Peter and I were young, it was relatively cheap, 3 times incomes. Now it's like 10 times incomes. So there's no real way of getting up the ladder. The equity market is much more expensive. Your kind of percentage share of the S&P is so much less. So the advantages that your parents had are not available to you. So that's a problem for society overall, is this issue of debasement of currency. The governments are doing it because there's no way of paying the debt. So what you're going to have to do is continue to print money.
Well, I agree with Raoul that inflation is a problem. Unfortunately, it's the path of least resistance for politicians to go down. It's the way they finance their spending. It's the way they buy their own reelection. It's the way they avoid having to be honest with the electorate and tell them the truth about how broke they are. And it's really a hidden tax. It's instead of taking your money by taxing you openly and directly, or even indirectly through a sales tax, they surreptitiously rob you of your purchasing power by just creating money out of thin air, usually with a complicit central bank, and then they spend that into circulation. And that drives up prices, whether it's goods prices, asset prices. But what's happening is the value of each monetary unit is going down. Now, I think that they're playing with fire here. I think politicians and central bankers probably think they can control it, and it won't run away from them and turn potentially into hyperinflation. And I wouldn't be so sure. I think a lot of politicians have overestimated their ability to keep that genie anywhere near the bottle once it's out. So I think there's a lot of inflation, and so it is a problem that you need to deal with.
So you can kind of see that they really do start on common ground here. They both see inflation, currency debasement, and national debt in the same light. Now, that's about where the commonality ends here. Like I said before, Peter Schiff has been very outspoken about Bitcoin. He actually has been talking more about Bitcoin lately than he does about gold. And he's pissed about it. And for right reasons, like he is losing market share. His gold companies and his gold shares are losing out to Bitcoin ever since these ETFs at the beginning of the year. So rightfully so, he's mad about it. He's losing a war to it. And it's because people are flocking to a more digital, easy way to essentially do gold. Now, I want to get into, I sat through this entire debate, and it's over 3 hours long. And it was pretty hard at times. But I want to show you through a series of clips kind of done together what exactly Peter Schiff thinks about Bitcoin. So listen into this.
Which has no fundamental value, has no income, has no earnings, no nothing. It's a lousy store of value because there's no value. When you're storing Bitcoin, you're storing nothing. So what good is the fact that it's easy to store nothing? Yes, I've got a very safe, secure supply of nothing. So you could say, yes, Bitcoin is scarce, but it doesn't have any value. Then it's worthless. It's not that I don't understand Bitcoin. I understand it. That's why I know it's worthless. Bitcoin can't be used as anything.
So in Peter Schiff's mind, Bitcoin has no value. Completely worthless. It's this made up thing, and there is nothing that backs it. There's no value to it. I and many people beg to differ, and I mean, Peter Schiff has to know this because there is value to Bitcoin's capabilities. For one, Bitcoin is fast. Okay, if I want to transfer value to halfway around the world to China, I can do that like that. Whereas with gold, if I physically own gold, I've got to take it, put it on a truck, ship it out to the port along whichever sea. Then I've got to go through Port Authority and Customs. I've got to get their permission to send it, which may or may not happen. If I get permission, Then I've got to put it on a boat. That boat has to go over an entire ocean to another port where, again, we have to go through customs and the Port Authority and hopefully get their permission. If that permission's granted, then I put it back on another truck or a train and it's shipped off to its final destination. And it may go through several other states or provinces where that truck needs to weigh in and declare what they have and gain more and more permissions. It's completely permissioned transfer of gold. Whereas Bitcoin, I don't need anybody's permission. Nobody gives me permission to send money anywhere all over the world. And it happens instantly. With gold, shipping gold to China or somewhere is going to take weeks. So there is value in that. Peter Schiff has to know that. I'm not sure why he refuses to acknowledge it, but the second thing is that it is easily, infinitely divisible. So I can pay someone or transfer value in any denomination. If I want to send $100, easy, done. If I want to send $5, done. If I want to send $1 million, easy, done, whatever. With gold, it is much harder to divide. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to come out and chip away with your hammer and your chisel and get $5 worth of gold to give to your friend or your mom or whoever. It's just harder to divide. So again, there's value in that ability of Bitcoin. Now, the third value is that it can't be faked. So I go back to in 2013, 2014, I was doing a lot of buying and selling of Bitcoin, and I was doing it in person. Like I would go out and I would meet with somebody who had contacted me. I'd meet up with them at a McDonald's or somewhere. They'd give me $200 in cash, and I would transfer with my phone, transfer to their Bitcoin wallet $200 worth of Bitcoin. And it was done in a few minutes, and it was easy, and it can't be faked. So if I'm looking at my wallet and I see Bitcoin come from this person who just sent it to me, I know that's Bitcoin because nothing else can go in that wallet. So if it shows up as Bitcoin, it is authentic. With gold, now, granted, I don't know a lot about gold. I don't know how you authenticate gold, but it's much harder than just looking at it and knowing that it's gold. You know, somebody could paint some rocks and pass it or paint some metal, you know, something, and without delving into it further and without looking, I mean, you really can't tell the purity either. So it might be coated in gold, but it might not be pure gold. How do you know? Other than maybe there's a stamp on the coin, or it says, you know, 0.99% purity gold or whatever, which is pretty easy to fake. Okay, with Bitcoin, you can't fake it. And the network is the most secure thing. It's never been hacked, so you can't hack it and make Bitcoin go in there that's not Bitcoin. So there's value in that Peter Schiff refuses to see. Now, the last thing that really has some value is the scarcity of Bitcoin. There's only 21 million coins that'll ever be mined, and that's it. There's no way to make more after that. And it's coming at a very steady pace. So right now we are looking at about 900 Bitcoin that are being mined into existence every day at this point. Nobody can change that. Nobody can go out and buy a bunch of more miners and increase that supply trickle. So no matter how much mining you do, it doesn't matter. There's still going to be that constant, steady supply of Bitcoin being mined every day. And in a month, that Bitcoin is going to be cut in half. So instead of 900 Bitcoin being mined every day, we're going to go to 450 Bitcoin mined every day. Now, the point is some people say that gold is scarce. And it is to a point. I will agree that to a point, yes, is kind of scarce. But the difference is one, that with gold mining, you can mine more gold into existence. So if the price goes up, if the price of gold goes up, miners can, because it's more profitable, the gold has gone up, it's more profitable for them to mine now. They double down on their efforts and start mining double the amount. And they can do that. With Bitcoin, you can't double down and mine more into existence. That's the first difference. The second difference when it comes to scarcity is that yes, what we've mined into existence now seems really scarce. But for example, we haven't found all the gold in the earth. And just last year in 2023, I believe it was Uganda, but this country found a massive gold deposit in their country. And it's estimated that if they did mine that gold out of the ground, it would double gold's current supply. So not very scarce when it really comes down to it. One deposit in one country can double the supply. That doesn't seem scarce to me. Plus, you've got the issue of, we're in the space age. So what's to say that we can't send an expedition into space and start mining gold out of asteroids or other planets? Eventually, right now that's not happening, to be fair. But eventually that could happen. So gold isn't as scarce as people think. There's always a way to get more. And with Bitcoin, it doesn't matter. We can't fly into outer space and try and find more Bitcoin than that 21 million. That is it. So it is truly, when you really think about it, it really is the only very scarce, finite asset in existence. So then we're going to go back to this interview. There's a few clips. Eventually, Peter Schiff starts getting into this other narrative that, well, Bitcoin's really just has a price because people agree on it, and it's determined on what people are willing to pay for it. So let's listen into that.
Bitcoin, though, as long as people think it's going to go up, as long as they maintain that delusion and more people want to buy it, sure, it will have a price. And if enough people don't sell it, then some people can, right? Bitcoin is purely a function of your belief, of confidence. It's a giant con game. As long as we all believe it has value, then it can have a price and people will want it.
Okay, so with that narrative that Bitcoin is really just kind of made up and the price is just basically what we agree to each other that it's worth. Raoul comes back at that several times over and over during this interview and really says it quite nicely. Listen in.
That is the nature of all investments. What happens if China sold its gold? Oh, the price
Why would they do
crash.
that? And they're
what
buying
happens if
gold.
the Fed sold their gold?
But then
the
somebody would
crash.
buy it. Somebody needs it.
This is not an argument. 10%
Yes,
of
it is.
all gold supply is used for industry. So if a central bank comes in and dumps their gold, like the UK did,
They have dumped gold. Central banks have dumped gold
And what
before.
happened to the
And
and
it
what
gets
happened to the
bought.
pri- and
It
what
gets
happened to the
absorbed
price?
in the market.
the price went down. And so maybe the price of Bitcoin goes down when people sell it. No shit. That's what markets do.
I mean, it's literally the same with everything. You know, the dollar only has value because we believe in it. People, the collective conscious believes in it and says it has value. The dollar, like all fiat currency, is this. Every stock has value because that is what people believe it should buy and sell for. Literally every asset works this way. Peter Schiff just somehow makes an exception that this is only unique to Bitcoin, which it's not. It literally is everything. So they kind of get into like this collective consciousness and meme idea, this collective mentality and memes. And listen into what Raoul has to say about this.
Peter's absolutely right. We've memed $1 trillion currency into existence. We've memed it. It's just human narrative. But guess what? So's gold. So is everything that we do, including religion. Everything is a meme.
So I feel better hearing that from Raoul Pal. At least I'm not the only one that sees that everything in existence has value purely because we assign value to it. So this debate goes on, and Peter Schiff really eventually goes into saying that everyone buying Bitcoin is a complete moron, and when it goes to zero and they lose everything, we're all going to learn a really good lesson about how not to be so stupid in the future. So let's listen into some commentary on that.
Let's assume you were less fixed on your view and you saw this new thing and saw that people also thought of it in the same kind of way that people thought about gold. And doesn't it make you go, yeah, that's fascinating. I wonder if this really could work in the digital age. But instead, you'll say, no chance, they shouldn't buy it, they're all idiots. What makes you so sure? Like, I would never say about gold, that's stupid. I would say, I understand it. Of course, gold is interesting. But it's a weird way to approach it, here is literally tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people owning something, and you're saying, they're all morons, I'm right. Well, regardless of the performance of 6 million percent, it's all just beanie babies. Is that really what you think?
So they kind of go back and forth on this a little bit, but eventually the moderator of this debate jumps in and he kind of poses an interesting question to Peter Schiff. And I didn't know this about Peter Schiff, but listen to this. It's fascinating.
If you had a time machine, you could go back in time and buy Bitcoin 10 years ago. Would you do it?
Of course. I mean, I'm not an idiot. Well, first of all, if I had a time machine, I could do a lot of things. I'd be the. But of course, look, yes. Do I regret? I mean, I remember when I was sitting at my desk, my studio in Connecticut, in Weston, and a guy working with me on my campaign, they were showing me Bitcoin, and the guy was like, "Look, just buy some." What the hell? And I looked at it, and I don't remember if it was under $1 or over $1, because I can't remember. But I remember it was like 2010 when I looked at it. And I remember I thought about it. Yeah, I could throw 10 grand in it, 50 grand. I don't know. I thought about it, and I didn't do it. I was like, this is ridiculous. But what am I went away from it. But I thought about it. I thought about all the odds, and I didn't see this kind of bubble potential. I mean, I thought, yeah, maybe it could go up, but I just didn't want to deal with it. Now, obviously, do I wish I had made the decision to have thrown 10 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand into it? Sure, yeah. It'd be worth hundreds of millions, assuming I didn't sell.
So that is interesting, because I have never heard Peter Schiff come right out and say that, yes, I regret not buying Bitcoin. I've never heard him say that. So it's amazing that they got that out of him in this interview. It goes on, and it's interesting what Raoul says to him after that.
I just would have made a lot of money if I would have bought it.
So you don't think there's a remote chance you might have been more enthusiastic about it had you have bought it, been involved in the community, made some money, attended some of these conferences, saw what's going on with the technology? Could it have been a different Peter Schiff, and it could have been Schiff Crypto written on the wall there? I think there's a chance it could have been, and maybe you missed it.
So that is a tough pill to swallow. And he is going to continue to miss it, because in this debate, he didn't ever fully come around. He does see what's happening, however. He sees these outflows from gold into Bitcoin, and he acknowledges that here. Let's take a look at that.
It's just that during the last 10, 11 years, where Bitcoin has been on the scene, gold has been very stable, while Bitcoin has gone way up. That it's going to be very noticeable with these Bitcoin ETFs, because I think a lot of the money that's going into the ETFs is trading money. I think a lot of it came out of gold stocks. I mean, if you look at what's happened in the last week or two, gold stocks have been clobbered.
And he's right. If we jump over here to this graph by Bloomberg, this shows when Bitcoin ETFs came into existence on January 11th. And it just shows the amount of inflow into these Bitcoin ETFs versus outflow from gold. So it's really hard not to make that correlation. So I don't know. It's interesting when it comes down to it in this debate. Peter's entire thesis on why gold is better than Bitcoin really rests on gold's physicality. That gold is something you can put in your hand, you can hold it, and you can, it's a tangible thing. It kind of comes down to, ooh, me like shiny thing. Very primitive thinking. And nobody says it better than Peter Schiff himself. Listen.
No, that's used. I got a gold watch here. I didn't buy a tin watch. No, because I can go swimming with the watch. It doesn't rust. It looks beautiful. It lasts.
My point exactly. Me like shiny thing. Look, my watch. Just primitive thinking. Now, I'm going to jump over to one last thing from Raoul Pal that that was an interesting idea that he posed to Peter Schiff in this argument. Check this out.
Still the best risk-adjusted reward of any asset we've ever seen. Fidelity produced this fabulous chart, which is like, it's a dot plots chart of risk-adjusted returns for all of these assets. And there's like gold and NASDAQ looks really quite good and etc. Right? They're all clustered. And there's a blank sheet of paper. And then somewhere up there in the far right is Bitcoin. The risk-adjusted return is alien. We have never seen anything like this. So regardless of what people say about the volatility, everything else, the risk-adjusted return is like an alien asset. We've never had anything like this, which is why, to me, when I simplify everything down, I just say this is the best macro opportunity of all time. We've got the best risk-adjusted return asset that has the highest performance of any asset in history.
And especially if you want to compare gold and Bitcoin, the past 4 years, and this includes that 80% drawdown that we saw in 2022. The past 4 years, if you're going to compare gold to Bitcoin, I ran the numbers last night. Gold increased from 2020 to 2024 right now and had a 44% increase in 4 years. So you divide that by 4 and you see an 11% per year increase over the last 4 years. Now, Bitcoin, this really goes to show you what Raoul is saying is that it is absolutely alien to anything we've ever known before. Because Bitcoin, from the same period where we were just talking about, 2020 to 2024, Bitcoin in that time period has increased 1,158% compared to gold's 44%. And that is with 2022, where we came down 80%. It's insane that more people don't see this. So if you take that 1,158% and divide it by 4, you get Bitcoin over the last 4 years has averaged out to a 386% increase each year. So if we go back to that 15% inflation rate, and we've talked about this in the previous videos, you know, CPI is currently at like 3 or 4%, but if you look at asset appreciation, like homes, if you want to own a home, those assets since 2008 have on average increased 15% a year. So if gold is only increasing at an average of 11% per year, you're losing value in gold. If you're in gold for the past 4 years, your purchasing power has decreased against assets like owning a home. Bitcoin, the past 4 years, not only have you kept up with the price of home, but you've made 370% on top of what homes and assets like homes are appreciating at. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. So I don't know, guys. I would love to hear any of your thoughts on gold or Bitcoin. What are you guys thinking? Let me know in the comments. And if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, and share this video. I'm constantly coming out with new videos almost every single day. So if you want more content like this, let me know and subscribe to my videos. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.